Hey guys, this is Shelby with the Rogers Public Library. So this week for Full Steam Ahead, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about dragons, and then I'm going to show you guys how to make a dragon egg. So you probably know what dragons are already. In general, there's two different kinds, right? You have the Western fire-breathing dragons, like this guy, right? You see him, he's about to eat a knight. He's having a lot of fun. And then there's these Eastern dragons that are a bit longer and more snake-like. Right, and there's dragon stories from all around the world, and all the different types of dragons are really different, right? For instance, this is a dragon from Mesopotamia in the Middle East, right? So it doesn't really look anything like the other two we just looked from. This is actually from a famous structure in the city of Babylon called the Ishtar Gate, right? And because of that, it's kind of hard to say, well, maybe dragon stories come from people finding dinosaur bones. That's probably the case in some instances, but there's also other possibilities, right? So for instance, in China, right, there's this alligator, and it has a lot of parallels between, or with the different dragon stories that they tell in China, especially how it comes out of hibernation in the rainy season, and how Chinese dragons are associated with water and floods. There's also things like oarfish and sea whales, right, that people might see from their ships and in mistake for being dragons, or sea serpents, which are somewhat like Eastern or Chinese dragons, but a little bit more fishy, right? And they're present in a lot of like in Norse stories, right? There's like Midgardsormr and Jormungandr. Those are dragons that are in stories about like Thor and Loki and Odin and those people. Right? So maybe there are things that are like dragons, and there were a lot of things like dragons a really long time ago, including dinosaurs and including things like giant snakes and giant sea-dwelling reptiles, but we don't have them anymore. The closest thing to real dragon that we have now is a Komodo dragon, which is just a big lizard, right? Or a pretty fearsome, pretty scary lizard, but just a lizard. So our craft for this week, I'm going to show you guys how to make this dragon egg. This one is made out of salt dough or Play-Doh. It's a little bit different because I used cornmeal, and that just gives it kind of a leathery texture, right? So it's a little bit more reptilian. And when I did this before, the recipe that I followed said to use basically equal amounts of cornmeal and flour, but I found that it wasn't super sticky, so I'm going to try to change those up a little bit. This is the smallest container of flour we have here. So I'm going to try to add a little bit extra flour because I think that'll make the dough stick together a little bit better. If you counted, that was 2 teaspoons of cornmeal and 4 teaspoons of flour. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. And then we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of salt. And that's to preserve it and make sure that the dough doesn't go bad while it's drying. A little bit extra. And then the last thing that we need is water. Mix this together. Adding a little bit extra flour because it's a little watery. Keep it out of the bowl. So I did have to add a little bit extra flour, or quite a bit extra flour, all things considered. But this is our dough, and you can maybe not see it from far away, but it does have a little bit of a texture. So if we wanted to, we could make our dragon egg plain, just white, kind of like an alligator egg or a chicken egg, but I think it should be a little bit more fancy than that. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of squish this piece of foil up into an oval shape, right? this is the inside of our egg. That's gonna make up the bulk of it, right? That means we have to use less dough. Or we don't have to use as much dough is a better way of putting it. All right, and then I'm gonna get a little drop of food coloring. This is pink. And then I'm gonna get some sparkles. So I think our dragon leg will look cool with sparkles. And they kind of look a little bit like scales. So that's pretty cool. And of course the food coloring is gonna get all over my hands. I'm gonna make a big mess. But that's why we have this piece of wax paper down, right? So we don't stain anything. So now we're going to flatten this out. And we're going to stick this in the middle. We're just going to wrap it around. And now the trouble is getting it in a nice ovally shape, right? It's a little bit lumpy. But yeah, that's more or less, that's a dragon egg. Like I said, I made this one basically the same way. Has a little bit more cornmeal in it than this one does. It also has gems in it, and here are some other ones that I've made in the past. They are made out of Model Magic instead of the dough. So same basic idea though. You just get the aluminum foil and you wrap it up with your dough to make the egg. And that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope you have fun, and I'll see you next Monday.